Right, welcome back. Last time, the two regions to the west of me, have finally managed to unify, under Samara and Omsk. And that's actually pretty much about it. As when it comes to global geopolitics, not much in particular happened. The Indonesian Civil War is still ongoing, although it's a bit of a stalemate and free Indonesia doesn't look too good. On the other hand, yeah, it's definitely looking like it's stalemated. At the very least, the US has nothing better to do, since the South African War is done, under, well, no change. So, personal news, I have mostly finished the economic tree, finished the diplomatic tree, and have done most of the military tree. I'm actually almost finished, so I'm going to have plenty of time where I'll be producing extra political power, since I'm not going to be using it on foci. So I can continue to focus on getting my developments improved. For example, probably should do a poverty relief program since it's about to upgrade, and that resets the, well, it divides the monthly gain by 4, or monthly loss, etc., etc. It divides it by 4. I'll probably do industrial equipment next, especially since scientific research is about to upgrade too. There we go, poverty upgraded again. Now it's went from 25 to 50%, down to 15 to 25%. Certainly improves the economy in that, yeah, my deficit is no longer as big because of taxes. Increased taxes. Tanks for peace. Reinventing the wheel. It's not rocket science, Alexei, laughed Julia, twirling the wrench in her hands. It's so easy some old Ukrainian guy can figure it out. Come, check it out. The woman hopped off the Tachanka 2, as Julia called the heap of scrap metal. Alexei shook his head. It's much more complicated than that, Julia. You don't just strap a gun to the back of a vehicle and call it a day. Have you considered stabilization? How far can you go in one tank? Julia rolled her eyes, digging through one of the thousands of drawers in her garage. This is serious. You've got 2 days to finalize this project before you can show it off to the Security Council. Those people don't mess around, Julia. Who knows what they'll do to you if you waste their time. Julia turned back to face her friend. Her lips pursed. Well, unlucky for you, we're never going to find out. This thing works, okay? I spent the last 6 months on it, and frankly, Alexei, if it doesn't, I hope Valentiv springs me up by my ankles. It was Alexei's turn to roll his eyes now, not finding the same humor as his friend. Don't believe me? Get in. The woman slapped the drawer shut with her hips and retrieved the keys off the wall. Catch! Nearly hitting Alexei square in the face, she tossed the keys to the dumbfounded boy, taking up all the good space in her garage. Julia, come on, this is ridiculous, I mean. Alexei looked at the vehicle and then to the keys and back to his friend. A slight smirk formed on his face. You say it works. If I am right, though, I'm going to tell the Security Council all your secrets so they can torture you. Alexei giggled as he ran to the passenger door. Put her in drive, Alexei. Sadly, I don't use motorized equipment. Gibraltar Dam officially finished. The huge construction project, the Gibraltar Dam, which is just a bottomless well, which Germany threw its resources into after the war, has finally been finished. Its long journey had brought alongside it a large variety of issues, which in its consequences affected far many more nations than just the Reich. Yet the responsibility of the abandoned project fell onto a people who had to directly deal with the fallout, not the Germans. The Iberians had to deal with the dam, while Europe fell into economic freefall. Despite all odds, the project has now been finished, and has earned the Union a considerable amount of prestige in the international community. Iberia itself is overjoyed by the news, and has proclaimed it as a national victory. The Germans quickly moved to claim credit, but outside of the National Socialist sphere, this has not been accepted well. Congratulations! What does the status say? Teaching was a natural calling to Nikolai. Many were in it for the status, or because their fathers had been teachers before them, and their fathers before them. In the days of the Tsar, some moaned and groaned as they got the privilege of being forced into it by their affluent parents. Imagine that today, a Russian fighting and cursing because he had to get an education. Most would kill a man just to know how to read. That was precisely the reason Nikolai did what he did, because he found people and their unending quest for knowledge fascinating. Even the most brutish Black Army soldier had questions. That's what kept them human even as they gunned down their enemies. When the General Assembly made a general call for teachers, or for those willing to become them, Nikolai rushed to answer, which was precisely how he ended up in Kansk, the city transformed from the beating heart of the territory to just another city. Nikolai found the prospect of the city, the revolution being lost to history, a terrifying one, and noted he ought to make it one of the main subjects of his daily lesson. "Mr. Zolden," his pupils cried as he entered the room. The humble teacher wasted no time getting into the lesson, picking up the chalk and drawing a hammer and sickle on the board. The hammer and sickle, the symbol of not only Bukharin, but of Yagoda. Separately, these tools mean nothing, but when they are put together, what do they represent? They show the common tools of the worker, united. This sounds, on the surface level, like something we ought to rally behind. However, Nikolai paused for dramatic effect, prompting his students to look up from their notes and met eyes with their instructor. This is a prime example of what we must be most aware of. The state will wear many clothes to try and trick you into being their puppet. There is only one symbol that represents freedom. That is the people hand in hand, nothing else. Teach them well, and all will be well. Stalemate. Coup d'etat brings an end to the Indonesian Civil War. Exhaustion drives men to desperation, and no situation could exemplify that situation better than the current developments in Indonesia. Following years of drawn-out conflict and with military forces on both sides, both the Jakarta government and the National Front wiping themselves out due to exhaustion, a little-known general named Suharto has risen to the occasion and launched a coup d'etat against the Sukarno government, pledging to bring an era of prosperity and sewing together the divisions within Indonesian society. Suharto has allowed Muhammad Hatta to return from the provisional government of Port Moresby and form a unity government with Hatta as president. Time will tell, however, whether Suharto's coup will set a precedence for the Indonesian military to intervene in politics. Well, it's better than nothing. Yeah, I won't be able to finish the helicopter for the first one. Canadian skeleton content. I went Social Democrats. Okay. Okay, I don't need you to drill anymore. I prefer to keep the equipment for that. A great conspiracy. Strange rumors have arisen from the depths of Japanese-occupied China. Following the arrest of Nanjing Allied General Sun Dianyin, rumors of a great conspiracy have spread like wildfire. The conspiracy involving the long-lost former leader of the Zhongtong, Dai Li. The Chinese countryside is gripping with terror, as Dai Li was famously known for his brutality during the Chiang Kai-shek years. Tokyo, however, has refused to comment or acknowledge the Dai Li situation, calling it an imperialist misdirection of Pan-Asian harmony or an anti-Nippon conspiracy. There are rumors, however, of the conspiracy being linked to the highest echelons of Japanese military intelligence, and only time will reveal whether it is true. Perhaps it might be true. Oh boy. Welcome to hell, enjoy your stay. Okay, all you need is just to grab Irkutsk. Wow. It's finally over. Great, I can actually create one single front line. I don't need to deal with a mess that is 2 separate front lines. Because that gets annoying. In the face of pain, there are no heroes. I could definitely use more education funding. Research for this about to upgrade. Cheetah unifies the Far East. Today, an address by Mikhail Andreevich Romanov in Russian radio confirmed what had been widely believed recently, and that is the fact that he, as the new Tsar, and his government originating from Cheetah, have managed to bring the entirety of the Russian Far East under their control. The faction, which was created by a large group of monarchist Russian emigres in Harbin with the support of the Empire of Japan, began as yet another warlord state near the Manchurian border. It is widely theorized that Tsar Mikhail was used as a puppet for other reactionary generals and remains one, but that remains uncertain. What matters for now is that Russian monarchism has made its return, about far from the nation's core lands. Has the race for unification begun? You're a bit late for that. Thatcher has been re-elected. The puppets snapped her strings. And of course, Arms collapses. Well, isn't that lovely? Dmitry Yazov is dead. The champion of the Black League, the carrier of Karbyshev's great mission, is no more. Being chosen to lead the most conspicuous force in Russia to the victory against the fascist beast, Yazov failed to handle the ambitions of the vainglorious and power-hungry warlords and doomed the League to a miserable end. Without its leader and guide in the Russian struggle, the League ceased to exist as a single entity and became a collection of feuding generals who seek to grab their part of the great heritage of Kardashev and have long forgotten about the purpose that once united them. With Yazov's death, the great trial has failed. Although the remaining League generals are trying to hold on to their not fiefdoms, the will of a powerful neighboring warlord is sufficient to erase the last remains of the all-Russian Black League Nazis. Well, at least they're gone. Alright, so this is the interface for the regional war. Diplomacy has failed. The unification of Siberia through war has shifted from a possibility to a certainty. And undoubtedly, our foe to the east is beginning their preparations as well. In order to gain the strategic advantage and defeat our foe, we must increase our preparedness. In a war on such scale, it is best not to leave something as crucial as the existence of our fledgling state up to chance. Preparedness is 0%, or preparedness must exceed 75% to declare war. Voting up higher levels of preparedness before launching our attack may make our situation more advantageous. I don't actually plan on attacking, because, well, you get a boost to war support for defending. It means I lose the initiative on when war will happen, but at least I'll gain a little bit of extra manpower and whatnot in the meantime. Begin researching air assault. And begin producing early helicopters, since I can use those. I'd also like on the side to start producing the experimental helicopters, since they can be used for the scout helicopter support company. Well, 4 more years for Bennett. All's quiet in America. Pomp and pageantry are on ample display today as President Wallace F. Bennett begins his second term as President of the United States. Flanked by American flags draped on the Capitol, President Bennett declares that every American dreams of freedom, of prosperity, of fulfillment. I cannot promise utopia, but I can promise that through honest work and faith in our republic, the torch of liberty shall burn forever. Observers have noted that President Bennett has promised little different from his '64 campaign. A steady pair of hands to guide America through its social divisions and to deepen its oath and commitments. Yet the American people seem to prefer Bennett to the MPP's firebrands, hoping that America can enjoy some peace at the end of a tumultuous decade. All's quiet in America. A conflict of interest. Stepanov tore the jacket off himself. It was too damn hot in this room, a sentence seldom said in Siberia. He removed the cap from his head, smoothing his few remaining hairs over. He observed himself in the mirror adjacent to the entrance to his dacha. He grabbed at the fat on his fat, pulling at it. He dropped his shoulders. He was getting far too old for this. How long had he been fighting? How long had he been acting? How long was he going to wait? The general shook the thoughts out of his head. It was a long game worth playing. Nobody who ever rushed to power stayed in. As he walked to his bathroom, he let out a groan. His knees were giving out on him. Too little years spent charging into battle and far too many spent planning them. Ivan turned on the faucet, still hung up on the conundrum that had plagued him for years. On the other hand, those who waited for power did not get long to enjoy it. Stepanov cupped the cool water in his hands and brought it to his face. 3 knocks later came from the door. Stepanov sighed, letting his head lean against the wall. What could it be now? Begrudgingly, Stepanov returned to the door and answered it. Before him stood exactly what he pictured, a scruffy kid. Was it so much to ask for, just for people to act like people? What do you need? Good evening, Companion Galanskov. I apologize for my tardiness. I just enlisted. I came from out east, still getting myself acquainted. Stepanov raised an eyebrow to the man. He knew naivety. You could see it from kilometers away, tasted in the air. He loved it. The recruit let out a nervous chuckle to fill the awkward silence. I had a message for you, Companion Valentiv. He told me to tell you he would have radioed in himself, but their only one broke in the middle of their expedition. They have orders to go to Tatarsk, but... They have orders to go to Lesosibirsk. That's what I told Valentiv, Stepanov interjected. I am very tired. It's late. You have your orders. Run along now. Stepanov quickly slammed the door on the soldier's face. Well, he thought, maybe it would all pay off in the end. The long game is the one with the largest prize. That's a lot of political power gone. The shot heard around the world. I trust you received the information I requested. Marco just returned from Novosibirsk, from civilization, finally back to the cold and somber wilderness. He was honored to be chosen to serve under Companion Valentiv. Even in the frozen huts of the Far East, he had heard the stories. Valentiv was uncompromising, but passionate. Not just bitter like the asses where he came from, the assholes where he came from. He fought for what he believed in. That was something Marco could look up to in the commander. He was not only willing, but eager to lay down his life for Valentiv, for his commune. God, it felt so good just to have a purpose. Marco did not see combat, however. He saw his companion sit up tense as he climbed into the truck. He had never met Companion Galanskov, but the name was unavoidable. When Dmitri gave him the address of the commander of the Black Army, he felt giddy to meet Companion Galanskov, but found him irritable. Of course, Companion Valentiv, we are under orders from Companion Galanskov to go straight to Lesosibirsk. Valentiv furrowed his brow. Seriously? That's what he said? Well then. Stepanov took the goggles from his forehead and pulled them down over his face. Let's go. Arriving in the commune of Lesosibirsk, Marco could immediately sense something was amiss, the way people poured out of their houses, standing outside and just staring. Valentiv was visibly uncomfortable. He spoke to one of the members of the commune, something Marco couldn't really hear. He tried to claw his way to the front of the pack to stand next to Companion Valentiv. Why had they sent so many people? By the time that he reached his commander, they were shouting. Whomever volunteer was speaking to had drawn his weapon. The people on their front lawns holstered weapons of all kinds as well, shotguns, rocks, bottles, whatever. Volunteers began to back away. The crowd was too rowdy. Someone in the crowd of black army soldiers, or for the commune, fired. Marco knew he had to act, and just charged forward, slamming Valentine to the ground. It all falls down. The joys of fine dining. The room seemed as if it were alive. Men threw their heads back in laughter and hysterics at jokes that only friends could understand. Candles adorned the shelves of the walls, giving the room a golden glow. It sat nestled awkwardly between the antiques and the knickknacks that occupied the space, the other 364 days of the year. The beating heart of the room was found at the center, a wall of men surrounding him, hanging on to his every word. Yuri Galanskov's booming voice was unmistakable. So I've killed Chikchakov, standing beside me, reeks like dead deer and alcohol, and I'm trying not to puke up that morning's food, although it would have looked the same as it did when I ate it when I came out. Am I right? I know you've seen this stuff. Anyway, he's trying to tell me. He says, Yuri, I think I hit a deer on the way here, and I turn to him and say, keep in mind he still thinks like death itself, and I say, oh no, that was just Misharenko wandering out of the mental health facility again. The table exploded into laughter, save for the man at the head of the table whose mind was fixated on the drink before him. Suddenly, the door to the tavern threw itself open. Companions! Companions! Where is Yuri? Galanskov pushed his chair back and stood, his demeanor quickly shifting from jovial to serious. What is it? I am here. I don't know. I don't know. I was just out hunting. Out northwards, you know. I saw the Black Army. They were all in this massive formation in the city square. I don't think much of it and continued on my way. But I heard shots, and men started falling. As the exhausted man struggled to catch his breath, Yuri turned to his ally Stepanov, hoping for solidarity, but found the man unbothered, smiling as he sipped his drink. What were you saying, Yuri? England joins the Einheitspact. Following months of petitioning and diplomatic meetings, it was announced today in a joint statement from Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher and Fyodor Martin Bormann that England would join the Einheitspact. This comes as a great surprise to much of the English public and the OFN in particular. While it was known that the German government had petitioned for the English re-entry into the hegemonic European alliance, many had assumed the scars from Operation Sea Lion and the Nazi occupation to be too deep for further cooperation. It appears that the doubters were wrong, as England now stands firmly in the Einheitspact of its own free will. While the Americans and their OFN allies fume across the sea, Germany's influence over Europe grows ever stronger, and may yet last a little longer. Really? Really? Alright, looks like they're preparing, so stop the drills. Get ready for war. Well, the Siberian Black Elite is finally dead. They would find peace in death. I am definitely taking a screenshot of that, give me a minute. There, I think that was a screenshot. I'm taking another one. Yeah, okay, definitely a screenshot. Another step back. Critically unstable. Yeah. Iberia looks like it's ready to collapse any minute now. Probably not a good sign. France failed against Brittany. Wow. There was the French resistance. Can I send volunteer? I can! Wow, I could. The problem is I'm about to go to war in about a month, so I'll make this war as fast as I can. France collapses amid Rollo failure. In shocking news, the Franco-German military operation to seize the rogue Republic of Brittany has resulted in the shattering of the nascent French armed forces, and with them, the French state itself. In the wake of Rollo and its catastrophic collapse, French organizations, including the Organisation Armée Secrète, have risen up, resulting in the hasty withdrawal of German forces from France and chaos across the Rump state. With no official statement from the Greater German Reich, aimless panic from the few French officials contactable, and no sight of Jean Bechelon, international observers are now beginning to accept that France may now truly be lost. Au revoir, mon ami. I don't actually need to upgrade industrial equipment. Agriculture rate, I don't need to upgrade it anymore. So I'll turn that off. Importing heavy machinery, I'll wait as late as possible so that I can probably get its improvement to come in soon. And just sweep eastwards. They have 10 divisions or so. US-Japanese talks begin. Many have noted an increased diplomatic activity between Japan and the USA in the past weeks. Today, speculation on the cause of the uptake was put to rest, as the countries announced a high-level diplomatic summit to address the situation in the East Pacific. The stated objectives for the summit is for Japan to secure access to American petroleum, for the USA to secure the return of the treaty ports, and for both countries, with their respective alliances, to lift their mutual embargo and resume trade. Great hopes are already pinned on the potential effects of the treaty, for the countries' respective economies, and for the wider cause of peace in the Pacific and the world. All eyes will be on the summit as they try to navigate the maze of competing interests to find common cause for a deal. Can the Pacific live up to its name? Who knows? The 1960 variant. What can I say? I know how that part of the game works. Send volunteers. Max of 4. Let's send the entire Armored Corps. And now I've got this, but might as well use it just for convoys. Begin coring everything. And reunify. This will unlock the Superregional tree. And sadly also remove the ability to do regional development. Well, okay. It hasn't quite unlocked it, but it will unlock it. Just needs a minute. The French resistance accepts. What can't be reclaimed. The Security Council was seldom as packed as it was. One would imagine that with the sheer amount of people, the room was alive with voices. Before you, I have made copies of Memorandum 91703. This message, relayed from Mr. Golanskov. You'll stop right there, Ivan. I have given far too much to sit here and have you badger me. You have no idea how, man. People of this territory, I hope you have been paying attention. They've said nothing against Mr. Golanskov, yet he's already prepared to blow his top. Don't BS me. I know exactly what this is, Golanskov bellowed from his seat. Stepanov carried on, undisturbed. This message before you never got to companion Valentiv. So Valentiv sends a messenger. Mr. Golanskov tells the messenger that Valentiv is required in Lesosibirsk. He repeats this multiple times. They must go to Lesosibirsk. And so they do. While there, fighting breaks out between the local population and the confused regiment. 8 dead, countless wounded. The room was silent. But if looks could talk, the room would be unbearably loud. Golanskov held his head high, eye level with his people, his brothers and sisters, who had come out in droves to support him. He reminded himself not to look at the seemingly increasing number of soldiers in the room as well. Before us, we have a hot-headed child, not someone fit to lead us into the greatest struggle we will ever face. I cannot, in good faith, allow Mr. Golanskov to guide the most important of battles. I beg this body to put the people first and remove Mr. Galanskov immediately. The members of the Security Council shared nervous glances between each other. There was not one people, as Stepanov referred to. The Free Territory had instead split itself into two increasingly threatening camps, the people and the army. The people demand freedom. You offer them a dictatorship, Mr. Stepanov. We offer no quarter. It is better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all. That's how the phrase goes. It's supposed to be inspirational. It's supposed to give a lazy bum the kick in the back to do what they were always afraid of. Stepanov wasn't quite sure if he was afraid of the people. There was no confusion. He certainly didn't like them, but was he afraid of them? Did he hate them? That question was more nuanced, and certainly not the one General Stepanov pictured he'd be thinking, as men and women alike kicked at his ribs. He couldn't hear much, maybe because his head has been savagely beaten, maybe because he didn't want to. Stepanov built his head like a fortress, locking himself in and others out. For decades, that was how he lived, a constant inner monologue with himself, planning his eventual assault from the fortress. The moment he let the drawbridge down to charge, the moment that his castle crumbled. He had waited so long, put up with so much companion this and thankless that. Who cared? He certainly didn't. All that preparation, all to hear the Security Council utter those simple words, yet the only thing Stepanov heard was the chants of the raging crowd before him. Stepanov the general died in the Security Council. Stepanov the schemer died as the people saw through his act. Stepanov the bloody and broken would die at their hands. Galanskov was saying something, of course he was, but Stepanov didn't care to listen. He chose to watch. Watch as his men anxiously hovered their hands over their guns, looking at each other for support. Shoot! He screamed at them through his eyes. Do something! He felt the rope slither around his neck. His eyes softened, a command to a plea to scream, and a scream to nothing. All that scheming for nothing. Well, the Black Army administration is now gone. Civil war erupts in Yemen. Instability in the Middle East? How strange. An end to wonders. We have come far. Where once our government was seen as a mere warlord holding on to a scrap of Russian land, we can now assert ourselves as a proper nation on the world stage. Having made it far into the final basket of candidates to reunify Russia, our country can stand proud of its accomplishment, and look out to the road ahead with determination. This progress has filled our citizens with awe, even as we rebuild the country, its infrastructures, and its industries. However, our successes have rendered the wonders of old much less critical to our efforts. Where once holding on to these relics of a happy past gave our government legitimacy and gave our people tools needed for survival, the wonders under our control are now a tiny portion of our overall assets. They will no doubt continue to inspire our people. They stand as mementos to the warlord era, but the age where holding on to wonders was of great importance has come to an end. Special effects of all wonders will be removed. So this list is going to be of national ideas is going to be a lot shorter now. Oman devolves into Civil War II now. Finally! Basque Republic. We completed the second test, and now we can look at what they can never take away from us. Scavenging the ruins. Somewhere, deep in the woodlands of Siberia, Yuri Galanskov wandered. He trembled, his naked body recoiling against the falling snow. He was stripped of all of his possessions save for a singular lantern, radiating a dim light. Above him, a pale white eye watched him from a black, starless sky. Without direction or purpose, Yuri stumbled forwards. The forlorn forest swayed in the frigid wind, but Yuri's hair remained still. The air sung a song, a call. It was inviting. It felt like home. It felt good. The shaking stopped. Suddenly, he existed outside of the elements. Snowflakes made their home on his skin, refusing to melt. This was good. He laughed as he dropped the lantern. Yuri kicked snow into the air and danced around as the ice crystals fell to the ground ever so delicately. He spun and twisted and jumped, frolicking deeper and deeper into the woods. The song of the forest grew louder and louder as Yuri's grin grew larger and larger. The song stopped. The great celestial body watching over him blinked out of existence. The forest was now black. It was more than black. It was a void. It wasn't simply a room with dull light. It was the destroyer of light. Yuri's laughing trailed off as the cold impacted him once more. For years, Yuri stood in the destroyer of light. Without warning, the trees ignited into flame. Yuri began to scream. He began to claw at his skin. It was so hot. Too hot. It's hot. Yuri began to melt, his skin pulling at the ground. It's hot. It's hot. Hot, hot. On the ashen corpses of the woods, a single tree grew, and on its lone branch dangled a body. Fat and round, the body shook amongst the flickering flames. Yuri, the corpse thundered. "You child, look what you have brought to this forest, teeming with life. Now, look, look." Yuri had no eyes to look, but he saw. Yuri jerked himself up out of his bed, panting heavily. He looked around his room, as it was before he closed his eyes. He began to laugh. It was only a dream. His giggle turned into a laugh, and his laugh turned into a sob. One sleepless night of many. The French resistance has run, thanks to my help. Alright, actually, that's probably going to be around the end of the session. I'll read the event and then finish it off here. Your coat, Companion Galanskov. Yevgenia draped Yuri in a coat of bearskin, one far too large for a man of his stature. The revolutionary looked straight on, his mind elsewhere. Yevgenia circled from his back and stood in front of him. He strained to find Yuri inside of his eyes. Her face dropped. "Yuri? I understand you're torn." She placed her wrinkled hands on his chest. "We've come too far now. You have to speak to them. I know you will. You will always do the right thing, Yuri. You aren't him." The phrase struck a chord with Yuri, his face twitching slightly. "Thank you, Companion Taratuda." Yuri pulled the coat tighter around himself as he moved for the door to the balcony. Yuri gripped the doorknob before he even stepped out. Yuri could hear the cheers. They sung his name, demanding to see Companion Galanskov, defender of the revolution against the Snake General, Stepanov. Yuri took in a deep breath, turned the knob, and stepped out in the brisk morning air. Yuri nodded politely as he waited for the roaring applause to end. It felt different. This was the treatment fascists received, and Tsars envied. Why was he here? The answer was in the admiration of the people below him. They chose him. They trusted him. Yuri was not to let them down. "Companions," he called. "Today we passed the second test. With a combined might, we toppled the authoritarian states in Siberia. We have left them battered and bruised, yet we must remain vigilant. It is time to build our own anarchy, free from the state inside and outside our territory." Yuri found his footing, continuing to rally the people to his side as he laid out the core message of the anarchist movement. If, for only a moment, the weight of the fear lifted from his shoulders. There is much work ahead. And we'll continue the work next time. So, what happened since last time? Cheetah managed to unify. About 4 months before they declared war on me to try to super-regionally unify. What does Manchukuo like me? Trade partners. So, Omsk collapsed while at war with Orenburg. They had already managed to capitulate the Ural League, but, well, That doesn't mean much now. But it seems to be stalling Samaro's own ability to move forward, which is rather interesting. Iberia's beginning to fall apart. In fact, I expect in the next couple months the Iberian War Super event to come out. Bennett won second term. So, nothing too interesting. Thatcher joined the Einheitspact. Lovely. And I managed to super-regionally unify Siberia. I'm actually currently undergoing preparations to invade Kazakhstan and to put down the bandits. Oh, there's also one other thing. The French state decided to try attacking Brittany in order to reconquer all this stuff. That didn't work. In fact, in order to end the stalemate, a white peace was declared, and for the French resistance and the OAS both rose up. Since I had that special offensive agency, specifically an agency for the liberation of others, and since they're considered libertarian socialists, I was actually able to send in volunteers, which is amazing. It certainly helped to allow me to, well, do as I pleased there. It was actually the first time I was able to use it. I look forward to be able to use it in the future, although sadly, libertarian socialist countries rarely find themselves at war, for one reason or another. Anyway, I'll see you again next time. Until then, bye.